I became a graphic designer because I like organizing information for practical intent. Whether my design was selling a product, displaying information, or exploring a concept, it was always communicating a message. In my Year 1 review, systems and humor emerged as two forms of communication I often used. An example of humor in my own work can be seen in my final for drawing machines, where I repurposed kitchen utensils as painting tools. The result was a series of abstract, surprisingly sophisticated black and white paintings. Over the summer, I took 2 typography classes as a way to continue to think about systems and communication. Intro to Modern Type Design taught me how to design a font systematically. Generative typography taught me how to generate and manipulate font structures and algorithmic art using JavaScript. My thesis will explore communication, both in its literal forms, like language and typography, and more abstractly, like systems, messaging, and tone. Currently, my design practice is a combination of handwork and digital tools. It's been pointed out to me that my 2D work is stronger than my 3D, and I agree. While I enjoy building and experimenting in 3D, I think it's important for me to consider how the final work can be translated back to 2D. It's also important to me to think about my thesis from points of view I might not otherwise consider. I would like to think of communication as a problem space where all my classes outside of thesis center around and support this concept. I'm genuinely interested in how others react to and interact with my designs. Because of that, I think various forms of measurable engagement could be fun and interesting. For satirical work, putting it on social media platforms to see reposting patterns. Or, depending on the project, design and deploy fictitious Google ads. For typography work, the website Future Fonts allows designers to post works in progress with the hope of gaining advice, suggestions, and feedback. ZXX is a typeface that works after the CAPTCHA method, creating distorted letters so it is unreadable by text scanning software, misdirecting information, or sometimes not giving any at all. The project started with a genuine question by designer and former NSA employee Sang Mun. How can we conceal our fundamental thoughts from artificial intelligence and those who deploy them? The typeface takes its name from the Library of Congress's listing of 3-letter codes denoting which language a book is written in. Code ZXX is used when there is no linguistic content not applicable. There are 6 different versions, each designed to generate endless permutations and thwart machine intelligences in a different way. As I previously mentioned, I spent the summer learning about type design. I find this typeface particularly interesting because the design decisions were made based on concealing the letter's identity, as opposed to aesthetic design or functional clarity. Aaron Marcus was one of the world's first graphic designers to work with computer graphics. His work ranges from art and design to physics and computer science. In these examples, he programmed computers to make random choices about the placement of marks, signs, layout, and form. This artificial, visible language, as he calls it, is what interests me most about Aaron Marcus's work. The resulting pieces are perfectly simple, yet the concepts and methods behind their execution are incredibly experimental. Mischief is a company based in Brooklyn that quietly creates some of the most absurd, cynical, and viral products on the internet. Many of the drops are viral pranks. A pair of Jesus shoes, like you see here, that are actually Nike Air Max 97s, whose bubble soles were injected with holy water from the Jordan River. Puff the squeaky chicken, a bong that looks like a chicken and squeaks when you hit it, and the finger on the app, a one-time multiplayer game with a very simple premise. The last person to take their finger off the phone screen wins up to $25,000. I've been following their drops with amused interest since January. Their pranks are relevant and timely, and often pointing out the absurdity of pop culture. Richard Serra's verb list. A written list containing actions that relate to oneself, material, place, and process. I came across verb list during my time in Form Studio. Looking at the list of actions gave me structure to understand how to tell a narrative while working abstractly. I've spent a lot of time this summer considering my thesis. Understanding my own insight into my design practice has been admittedly more difficult than I expected. I struggled to understand what it was that I considered every time I approached a problem. As it turns out, my insight into design comes from something I am actually quite quick to dismiss: my professional experience. My undergraduate degree is in graphic design, and I worked as a graphic designer at boutique agencies and large corporations for over 10 years. Every time I approach a project, whether I am selling, exploring, commenting, or organizing, I think about what it is I want to say and how I want to say it. Communication is inherently part of my design process.